Phil Spencer was warned, and we have emails. We've talked about the Xbox layoffs, what they mean, what the numbers are looking like and everything, the studios that were underperforming that needed to be cut, all that stuff. What it means, sadly, for a lot of people losing their jobs and everything. But now there's even more coming out about these Xbox layoffs. So here we go. Let's check this one out here. A new email that was sent to Phil Spencer that warned or forewarned about these layoffs coming and everything else. Let's check out what Bellular has found about these Xbox layoffs in more detail. Here we go.
Today we're going to break down what's happening at Xbox. And I'm sure that by now you've probably seen the headlines and you know that Xbox are gutting themselves. But what you've probably not seen is this internal email. It was once sent to Phil Spencer, the previous president of Xbox, and it was sent on March 19th, 2021. It is goddamn prophetic. One of Microsoft's own software...
What did this say? I didn't even fully read it. In my mind, if a studio completely needs to prove their worth by being a net value over their cost, it adds a ton of pressure to release hits on a regular basis. If a game is niche, though too bad, this is not an armchair quarterbacking. I swear I'm just super worried about the moat you've built, that the winds of change will lead to a bloodbath in a few years down the road. This was sent back on March 19th of 2021. That's the date that's behind my head right now. So yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah, what the hell? 2021 was 5 years ago? Jesus. Time is moving so fast. I can't believe that. Wow.
March 19th, 2021. It is goddamn prophetic.
Pre-ready.
One of Microsoft's own software architects working on the Xbox team was writing about the studio empire that Xbox had been building under Spencer's leadership. Quote, "This is not armchair quarterbacking. I swear, I'm just super worried about the moat you've built, that the winds will change and we have a bloodbath a few years down the road." Spencer replies and reassures him, "I don't think we've ever closed a studio due to the studio's P&L, profit and loss." Now, the only reason we have that email is that it came out in court during the Federal Trade Commission.
He wasn't wrong. I mean, he replied to this back in 2021, and he was saying Xbox was not cutting studios based on profit and loss. This was his response in 2023. And really, right now, that's what these layoffs were. All the underperforming studios are the ones that really got hit hard. So far, Blizzard hasn't been hit too bad by these layoffs, but I say so far because the letter that talked about these layoffs said that it was going to continue through 2027. So there's still more to come on that side.
P&L, profit and loss. Now, the only reason we have that email is that it came out in court during the Federal Trade Commission case with the Activision Blizzard acquisition. But today, we see that that warning has indeed came true. Again, there obviously have already been cuts. We're seeing 1,600 Xbox employees being let go. That's 10% of the company. And another 1,600 will go over the next 12 months. And on top of that, there's also cuts at Microsoft. But it's not just that. So far, a total of 5 studios are going to be leaving Xbox. But there's one more thing that makes this all the more alarming to me, and that thing is the number 1 billion. Because that's the number of players that Asha Sharma wants to hit. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how absurd that demand is. At the risk of stating the obvious, this bloodbath didn't come from nowhere. A lot of people saw it coming, even as we saw in that email back in 2021. We've known that Xbox's studios were preparing for layoffs and potentially closures. Bloomberg...
I mean, it makes, if you just look across the industry, you already know this. Every single company's making performance cuts, right? Performance-based cuts. And that by the way, they hide behind that a lot of times. Performance-based, it basically helps you not get sued after you lay people off. So there's that whole terminology that these companies use. But we do look at some of these studios that did get cut, and honestly, they hadn't released any good games. A lot of these studios that lost, that are being cut and people are losing their jobs because of it is really due to the fact that they just never dropped a game that was any good. Now, I mean, honestly, that falls more on the managers than the unfortunate developers probably that lost their jobs because of this too, and just bad management decisions. Like some of these games, you look at them and you're like, why did they make this game? There's literally one of these studios made a game where like you're a flower pot that and you make flower pots that fight against each other. Like, oh, who greenlit that shit? Why was that ever a game? And the poor people that worked on it, I mean, it's not their fault. It's whoever the hell in management and upper level management decided this was a good idea. So the performance-based, a lot of these Xbox cuts so far have been that way. We'll see if they continue to be this way.
Suggested that Compulsion Games, Ninja Theory, and Double Fine were in the firing line, and there were more reports and concerns suggesting that Rare, Obsidian, and other studios were also at risk. The chaos here has all been blamed on Xbox's new corporate mentality, that essentially Xbox is really screwed, and to fix it up, they're bringing in a startup mentality, one that is very much move fast, break things, and make decisions in hours rather than days. And the result of that is staff having a very messy understanding of what's going on at their company. But based on some of the decisions we're seeing, this move has been in the works for a while. This memo, signed by the CEO alone this time, repeats a lot of the points that we've heard already, right? Things like this quote, "Our business today is not healthy." Talk about profit margins being too low, about strategies needing to change in the current market. It was all building up to the idea of a reset, and this is now that reset. 1,600 staff are gone today, another 1,600 over the next 12 months. Overall, a fifth of the company, and it's all in service of restructuring. Now, we've been told that some of this stuff will be structural changes, like improving access to, say, self-publishing on Xbox. But more important is what she thinks Xbox games should actually be. 5 studios no longer make that cut. 2 of them we know are going independent. That's South of Midnight's Compulsion Games and Psychonauts' Double Fine. They're going back to their founders' ownership, and they do say that they've got runway secured for their next games. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean those games are fully funded. Those teams will likely still need to secure new financing or maybe do some layoffs. Where there is better news, at least, is on the front of Ninja Theory, who are the team behind Senua and Bleeding Edge, and Undead Labs, who are the State of Decay studio. Both of those teams showed off their games at June's Xbox Showcase, and it turns out that was part of a gambit that actually paid off. Because really, they weren't showing those games off for us, they were showing them off to basically sell them to investors, to try and drum up some hype. And as it turns out, both of those teams will be bought out with terms to join new ownership with funding to complete and grow Senua and State of Decay 3. And from what we can tell, Xbox will seemingly still be involved, perhaps as a publisher, but at the very least as a platform partner. Again, in those cases, while it is good news, we don't know how many staff are going to be retained. Then there is the 5th studio. It is Arcane. They're the people who made Dishonored, and they're in a bit of a different position. French position. Basically, they're in consultation. That's because French worker protections mean that Xbox basically have to prove that any layoffs are actually necessary and that every other option has been considered. And honestly, it could be dicey for them. The Verge is reporting that their current project, Marvel's Blade, has ran over budget, as of course all immersive same-genre games tend to, and that Xbox are delaying it further while they basically talk with the Works Council.
Yeah, France has much better unions when it comes to this stuff and workers' rights. That's just how they work. So, yeah, they're going to have to actually prove that these layoffs are necessary over in France. We'll see if they can actually do that. It'll be interesting to watch how that whole thing goes.
In France to work out what they're going to do. So here it at least seems the worst damage has been avoided. And a very good thing is that each team will actually get to retain their Xbox-produced IP and their back catalog. That is huge. That makes them way more valuable to any investors who could come in and financially save them. So it is good. And I suppose Phil Spencer's record does survive a little bit more, you know, on the technicality of his words rather than maybe the spirit of them. So this isn't as bad as it could be, but that is in fact what they do want us to think. What's been clear through Asha Sharma's tenure is they're pretty damn good at PR. We saw that in the first 100 days. And obviously, while this is different, they still are banking on the sentiment that this is not as bad as it could have been. The worst implications of the rumors did not come true, but all this stuff is a calculation. Closing these studios would be instantly bad press, and so too would hoarding the studio's IP. Releasing the studios, giving them their IP, well, that's good, and it kicks the can down the road, meaning that if those studios collapse, well, Xbox was involved, but they didn't pull the trigger. They aren't really the bad guy. But it does all beg the question, why? It's all so that Xbox can stop paying for these 5 studios, all that were bought between 2018 and 2021 to fill out Game Pass. And the way that they've dispensed to these studios means they don't have to pay severance bills, they get softer headlines, all those things that are better than had they just done
corporate shit. And, you know, it helps them with that retaining that, what is it, 3 to... that basically requirement that Blizzard and all these game studios now have at Microsoft is like this crazy profit margin. I remember we talked about, I don't know if it was 10% or what, but they needed like a super high profit margin. And now Xbox gaming is basically being looked at by the big daddy overlord of Microsoft, and they're being told you need to get a wider profit margin. So they looked around and said, well, these studios who basically have a profit margin of freaking zero, because they're not producing any games that are really worth anything, they're cutting them out. So they're cutting all that basically to raise their overall profit margin. Good thing is, a game like World of Warcraft is pretty profitable. If I can drop a $90 store mount and everyone runs and goes crazy for that, imagine the dev time that went into that mount versus the amount of money they made off of it. That's why those store mounts are so damn popular and we see so many good ones. Like when you compare it to like a $40 expansion, right? That thing comes out. Imagine the amount of dev time and work that went into that and the profit margin on that versus a $90 long boy. Yeah, there's a huge difference there. That freaking $90 long boy is like 99% profit. It's crazy.
In 2021 to fill out Game Pass. And the way that they've dispensed to these studios means they don't have to pay severance bills, they get softer headlines, all those things that are better than had they have just done closures. And of course, that same calculation runs through the second half of the memo. Some teams, she says, have to go through 14 layers of management. And for an example on that front, there's the Xbox platform team. Its staff counts, Asha says, are up by 40% since the start of this console generation. Now, Sharma thinks they can get all this stuff way more lean, that they can get the management layers down to 5 or even 3 layers, and all while enshrining a cleaner code base, shared services, and 50% reduced vendor spend. Now, with bloat and wasted...
I will say, when it comes to management layers, a lot of these companies have way too many fucking people. Like, just too many, this guy manages this guy, manages this guy, and it's like every time you got to send a message up, it goes up through 5 people and gets telephoned the shit out of before it actually gets anywhere where someone can make a real decision. So, yeah, a lot of that is where a lot of these hits have been coming. It's like middle management's been getting wrecked. I just always feel bad when, like, the lower level people get destroyed in the process, and they weren't even making the bad decisions. They were just following orders, essentially.
Like that, you're probably wondering, man, how bad were their operations?
Well, what's a good profit margin? It depends on the industry. I know, like, software as a service, like, those are crazy high. Those things have like over 50% profit margin. So anything around that is really good for those. But then I don't know about a game. It just depends. Like when you're making a very expensive product, like a car or something, your profit margin's in the single digits in terms of percentage. But if you're making something like a game, well, that's going to be still, it's going to be better profit margin than, say, a vehicle would be, because there's just so much more hardware that goes into that shit and that cuts into your profits. But there's still a lot of development that goes into a game versus like making an app, say like Uber or something. Not, I wouldn't use Uber because that's a fucking weird example. But I guess making an app like just a fucking app that helps you sell shit or something. I don't know. Those have really high profit margins, software as a service, because there's just not a lot that goes into it other than just some dev power into an app, right? There's a lot less that goes into making an app than, say, making an all new world in World of Warcraft. So the profit margin depends on all the upfront shit you got to do to get that product out. So I don't know what's considered good for a gaming company. I just know that like hardware shit, way less profit margin. That's just expected.
It turns out they didn't have a chief operating officer. So Sharma now wants the buck to stop with a newly appointed COO, Helen Chang, who is an Xbox veteran and has been senior leadership at Mojang for years. And now basically her job is to guide one big new operating model for all of the Xbox org. And what it all adds up to then is an Xbox that is screaming at all of us that they are drawing a line in the sand under what's came before. But it still may not be able to learn lessons from all of that. Let's think about the whys. Platform headcount is likely ballooned by 40% because the team has went from consoles to doing consoles, handhelds, PC, cloud, and all of that bloat. Now, of course, I do believe there is actually bloat there. I mean, just for one, it's Microsoft. That's what we would expect. But framing it in the worst terms, talking about the 14 layers deep management, is the same play as shipping off Xbox teams to someone else so that someone else is responsible for their eventual failure. Basically, it disguises the damage that is not in this memo. And the memo offers exactly one reassurance, which is this. Activision, Bethesda, ZeniMax, Blizzard, King, Mojang, and Xbox Game Studios. None of our first-party publicly announced games or projects are being cancelled as a part of these reductions. That is good news, but it does mask a lot of the cuts that have happened to actual game teams, and certainly cuts you will feel. As an example,
First party titles, I'm guessing, are like the Xbox titles, like the actual ones that come from Microsoft slash Xbox. I think that's what they mean. So does that mean Fable's still fine? The Halo shit, all that, those will still be fine. Those will still come through. So yeah. So anyone who's still waiting on, I did see someone in chat say, "I'm still waiting on Fable." I guess that'll still happen.
95 staff are gone at id Software. Those are the Doom people. And if the rumors are right, the id Tech engine team has been gutted. And all that happened a day before the launch of the next Doom expansion. And in terms of headcount, from what we understand, that's somewhere in the region of between a half and a third of the studio. So if you want more Doom or any of the shooter-related things that id are involved in, that's really bad news. Alongside those cuts, though, there's 35 at Bethesda Game Studios. Now, some of those seem to have been from Fallout 76. Cuts across ZeniMax really are quite something. Jason Schreier suggests that they will basically only be focusing on Fallout, The Elder Scrolls, Doom, Quake, and Wolfenstein. Now, what's weird there is them saying they'll be focusing on Elder Scrolls. But The Elder Scrolls Online has actually had its team allegedly be cut in half. Yes, half of the MMO's dev team is gone, and that's days before their next season launches. And we also know that their future...
I know there are people out there who like Elder Scrolls Online. I just think Microsoft probably looks at their acquisition of Blizzard Activision. They see World of Warcraft and what it does, and they probably just think, well, do we have enough room for 2 MMOs out of our company, or should we just focus on WoW? Because at the end of the day, I mean, Elder Scrolls Online doesn't really compete with World of Warcraft. It is a direct competitor in terms of it's an MMO, but it doesn't compete in terms of popularity. So maybe that's the direction they're going.
Roadmaps will have to be altered as well. And then there's Obsidian. They've consistently shipped games, but that wasn't enough. A quarter of Obsidian is also gone, and that includes veterans like, as an example, the art director of Outer Worlds 2, who had been there for 21 years. Now, an interesting thing is that unionization has seemingly protected Blizzard Entertainment as a whole, but not Bethesda Game Studios. And if you want more on the Blizzard side of things, we'll be covering that on our Warcraft channel at a later date. But I want to focus on the numbers here because they're still rolling out, and you have to remember that this is just the first 1,600. And if you think that most of the current 1,600 is just in the 5 studios that are being cut, they only account for around 500 staff. So with all that in mind, and with the clear cost to actual game development teams, even ones that would be focused on the franchises that Xbox is saying that they really care about, you do then wonder, what is all of this for? What does it actually buy Xbox? While we're talking about cuts, overall Xbox say that they are not going to be cutting investment in Xbox. So everything that they say, from cutting 5 studios and 1,600 people, will go straight back into the franchises and the studios that remain. And it's all in the name of their big new ambition of the Xbox leadership team. I want Xbox to be one of the few companies that entertains more than 1 billion people each day and gives everyone the opportunity to create and connect. Oh man, don't you just love creating and connecting with your fellow Homo sapiens? But just sit with that number for a second. 1 billion people per day on Xbox platforms. 1,000 million. That is an absolutely unbelievable goal, and I would say an unattainable one. To give you a sense of scale here, Steam does not even break 100 million users a day. Roblox tells brands that they reach 151.5 million players a day. So Xbox would need nearly 7 Roblox-level successes to meet Ash's new goal. And what makes this extra grim is it just does not fit the scale of the games industry.
That's 1 in 8 people on the planet. That's a good way to put it, Konisia, and fucking... A lot of people don't even have TVs. How the hell are you going to reach? People don't have electricity or running water. I mean, we're including those people when you talk about 1 of 8. So how the hell do you get an... What, do you just put an Xbox in these villages, random places in South America and Africa and shit? Just say, oh, we reached them. I mean, there's an Xbox sitting there in the village somewhere. It's not plugged into anything and it can't be used, but we reached them. Yeah, I don't know where the hell that's like the press. I'm surprised, like, the press team didn't stop her from saying a number that crazy, because how the hell do you get to that number?
To find 1 billion people a day, you do basically have to leave gaming, because 1 billion a day is basically messaging app territory, the likes of, say, China's WeChat. I mean, right now, analysts suggest that Xbox touches about 1 billion people per year across everything that they run. Asha wants that number every single day. How's that going to happen? Is it going to happen with the types of video games?
Maybe if you say, well, anybody who has Windows downloaded on their PC, like that means that Xbox is also touching them? I don't know. That's the only way I can think of, like, hey, that worked. Phones. Okay. Fort, maybe phones can get you closer. Yeah, because there is an Xbox app and all that stuff. So yeah, maybe phones. Phones plus PCs. Yeah. I think then we're talking. Yeah, if you're not just talking, you can't, obviously, there's no way they'll ever do it with consoles. Those aren't even popular anymore in like first world countries. So yeah, if cars, right. Right, air. Maybe we put the Xbox in the air, right? Just the nanoparticles of Xboxes floating around. Then that's technically it's touching them. Yeah, phones and PCs, that could get you closer for sure. Then it starts to become more realistic because even like third world countries and shit, believe it or not, there's just phones everywhere. You see videos from countries. Sometimes I'm like, I didn't even know they had cellular service in that country. And turns out there's like people with phones walking around. So yeah, maybe that's how you get there. Tablets too? Yeah, to a lesser extent.
Did most of us play? Probably not. Remember Mojang and King being mentioned in the memo? Well, she thinks they are the future, and in her own words, they, quote, increasingly become platforms and are our largest by monthly active players. They bring critical geographic, demographic, and differentiation to Xbox. Basically, she's talking about uncorrelated risk. The idea that, say, if the new Halo game fails, that wouldn't have an impact on, say, I don't know, soccer mums who play Candy Crush. Because if we're going to hit 1 billion, we're going to need way more Candy Crushes in the world.
Yeah, Candy Crush will help you get there.
GameFile reports that this is actually not an abstract plan for better numbers. Their sources go on to say that Sharma sees Minecraft as being massively underinvested in. You see, 6 years ago, Minecraft was matching Roblox. Roblox got to reinvest in Roblox, whereas Minecraft basically had to help pull up the rest of a struggling Xbox. So, with a lot of that Xbox being cut, the plan now seems to be throw money at Minecraft, both the game and the platform, until Minecraft is able to catch up. Because that is the real trick here. All of those layoffs, really, Xbox saved nothing. It's all about reallocation, and that's what brings me to the long-term impact. If you believe Asha Sharma fully, then nothing was really saved here. Xbox fully intends to spend that same amount of money next year on what is left. And we know roughly what that looks like in terms of the games they care about. They've made it very clear it's the massive brands. So Halo.
Arcanimus, I know this is outside of the WoW conversation, but Minecraft needs server power. I don't think it needs development ingenuity. I mean, really, with Minecraft, like Roblox, the players are the developers. You just got to give them the tools and, like you said, the servers and things to be able to do it. Minecraft, unfortunately, hasn't leaned as hard as Roblox has into just letting players make shit that other players can get into. That's where Roblox currently holds. And it's funny because Roblox oftentimes has felt like just a copycat of Minecraft. That's it, and they've done it right. I mean, basically, the players have created the game with Roblox. Minecraft is that capability. They just haven't leaned into it hard enough.
Warcraft, Fallout, Call of Duty, and
my 8-year-old loves Minecraft. Builds worlds in it all the time.
Releasing, say, Ninja Theory, well, maybe that'll buy them a single new level in Call of Duty in 3 years' time. Or maybe an outsourced remake for Fallout. But that doesn't mean that those franchises will get through this unscathed. More investment isn't always good. And as so many video game projects have taught us, just throwing
more investment, more pressure,
money at the problem doesn't really correlate with a brilliant bit of art coming out the other end that customers will love. But maybe a key takeaway is just how lucky PlayStation have been to have such rubbish, ineffectual competition. Of course, PlayStation are trying to take their own lead in being very controversial. They are killing physical discs, but it does go way further than that, and you can learn all about it in this video next.
Oh yeah, that pissed people off for sure. Yeah, we'll see if this actually leads, what it leads to. Again, these first round of cuts, the 3,600 we got 3,600 total. It was like whatever the number of cuts that just recently happened. Yeah, people look at those and they're like, well, it was just performance-based cuts. There's more cuts coming though. We know that there's more cuts coming by 2027. So we'll see if Blizzard actually gets affected and what happens with WoW going forward. But for now, it seems like WoW is safe. We'll see. Nice video overall though from Bellular.